management and cybersecurity.
Okay, well, welcome, Joe. Any other?
President Jeff and fellow Rotary members, I have a guest. I don't see her on yet. Caitlin Smith is an intern in my office. She is a communications major at PFW and is risking all to be in my office for a semester. So welcome her, please.
All right, super. And I see a bunch of folks on here today, including some folks that we've not seen for a while. So welcome to the Fort Wayne Rotary Club. If you're not already done so, please let those who you are connected with on social media know that today you are attending and enjoying your time with the greatest Rotary Club on the face of the earth. This date in history. Once again, I was forced to go this date, give or take a day or two, to try to find some interesting things to share with you. I found some sad things and some terrific. On the sad side, on this date in 1957, Laura Ingalls Wilder, chronicler of American frontier life and best-selling author, died at the age of 90. And on this date in 2014, iconic child star Shirley Temple died at the age of 85. This plucky, curly-haired performer sang, danced, and acted her way into the hearts of Americans in a much-needed way during the depths of the Depression. And as an adult, she served as a U.S. diplomat. And on this date in sports, on this date in 1971, pitcher Leroy Satchel Paige became the first of the Negro League, as they called it, veteran to be nominated to the Baseball Hall of Fame. Paige was a pitching legend, known for his fastball showmanship and his longevity of his career. He started in the 1920s and pitched his last game in the 1960s. So in 5 decades, he pitched. And Joe DiMaggio once called him the best and fastest pitcher that he'd ever faced. He pitched an estimated 2,500 games, had 300 shutouts, and 55 no-hitters. In 1 month in 1935, he reportedly pitched in 29 consecutive games, complete games. I mean, they just don't do that anymore. He was a legend. And in this date in rock history, in 1964, a big date, America met the Beatles for the first time on the Ed Sullivan Show 57 years ago. It's estimated that 73 million Americans, or about 40% of the US population, were watching the night that the Beatles made their US television debut, introduced by Sullivan's now famous, "Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles." And after a few seconds of rapturous cheering from the audience, the band kicked off into All My Lovin'. 50 seconds in, the first audience reaction shot of the performance shows a teenage girl beaming and possibly hyperventilating. Then they sang She Loves You, and the place seemed to explode. And it's a sequence that changed the music scene immediately and forever. And that is this date in history. Rotary Is moment will be provided by Jim Kress. Jim, please unmute yourself. I thought I saw Jim on here earlier.
Yeah, I'm on.
There you are.
I was thinking in alignment with what our speaker is talking about today, that I might have the Rotary Is moment from the time that I joined, which is in 1982. I know I'm not the oldest member, but I'm certainly an older member. And back in 1982, we did not have women in our clubs. Wow, how that has changed and what inspiration and innovation they have brought to our club. We changed locations. That may not seem like much to some people who were not a member of the club at the time, but we had more members and we had to find a place where we could have lunch and close parking, preferably on the same side of the street, but we walked across the street, we do now. And to meet all those criteria in downtown Fort Wayne, years ago was no small feat. And then just to get the feet walking there or driving there, because we were in a place that they had always been. Well, that's not true, but for the members at that time, that was their theme was, well, we've always been here. We can't change. Well, we've made a lot of changes. We have a new peace committee. And with that, we do projects and listen to speakers from RI, from Rhode Island University. We have grants, not only through the Peace Committee, but through other areas. One comes to mind with Dr. Kalapari and the grants going to India, and also local projects that we have had, including but not limited to the Avenue of Trees, the Togo, South Africa project. They have a new school. And one of the main things is that not only do they have a new, better school, but I don't know how to explain this exactly, but girls can go to school longer because they have girls' restrooms. And if you think that through, then you can understand that. But I won't go into that. And we have a new Rotary clock downtown. We have done all these things. And now what's in the future? That's the most difficult thing to say, because we can look at then and now, but looking ahead to the future, what's it going to be? Are we going to have more money to put into hospitals and medical equipment in different parts of the world or in the same part of the world? What will we do with our peace committee? Where is that going? What projects are we going to have? Some are in the hopper. Some are things we may do, but it's going to come down to choosing and deciding what we can do. Locally, what will we do? We have helped start new clubs in the area in the recent past, and we are now. And how many more clubs will we be able to assist? And when you think of these things, I remember when phones first came out, cell phones. And I was talking with a doctor friend of mine, and he was thinking of getting one and told me I should. Well, at the price, I wasn't going to. And I said I would never pay $1,000 for a phone, and or even close to it. Little did I know what the prices would do. But I jokingly said to him, because at that time they were giving away cassette recorders and small cameras free if you'd open an account here, or if you'd do that there, and you'd have these things free. And I said, I think someday cell phones are going to be free, and they will give them to you. They're not going to be top notch, but they will give them to you. And he just laughed and thought that was the funniest thing. That will never happen. Well, he didn't live to see it happen, but it certainly has happened. So when we look to the future, we have to dream so much to see what can happen. In Black Lives Matter, with the Peace Committee, we're working some with that. And what's going to happen? What has happened since Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? Can we do even more in the not too distant future? And I think we can, because we're starting to do more in our club and in our community. And I think those are the things that we need to look at, not just the past, what was then, or not just what is now, but what can we do in the future? And so as we look at our committees and attend our committees, that can be a question perhaps. What can we do in the future that is viable, that is meaningful, and that we can say, yes, we're Rotarians doing this? Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I think it's a very valid point to look at what have we done in the past and what can we do in the future. And while there's some nostalgia looking at the past and saying, boy, those were great days, I think we can also look to the future and say, the best is yet to come. Won't it be fine? And it certainly will be. All right. Well, that was our Rotary Is moment. And so now please put your $3 in the pot on the table, or in this case, click the link and contribute to the service fee because we use those funds to run our programs. Do we have any high fives? Yes, Barb.
Yes, I have a high five to Mike Weber and to the social media committee of the PR committee, because they are posting a lot on our Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn page. And Mike created our LinkedIn presence. So I just invite you to make sure that you visit our Facebook page, share it as much as you feel is something you would like to do. Don't just like, but share. So if I can be so bold, and because if you share it, then you push it out to your friends. So I would just invite you to look at our social media platforms, their Facebook and their Instagram and LinkedIn, and just share as much as you can and just appreciate the effort that's going in. That's it.
Thank you, Barb. Any other high fives?
I do. My wife retired last week, and that's one thing for a high five. The other thing is we took our $25 certificate to Ruth Chris, and we went to celebrate for lunch, and with another $100 from that $25 one, we got out without washing dishes.
Well, thank you for supporting local restaurants.
Yay.
Yes, that prize that you won was supposed to be just a starter for you.
I know that.
I don't think you can get out of there with a pack of crackers for $25.
Oh, that was lunch.
Well, we'd like to thank our Rotary workers today. John Pierce is filling in today as our spin editor. Now, if any of you are good at writing, enjoy writing, we could use more volunteers to serve as spin editors. So Mark Heisey is in charge of that committee. So if you have those skills, we could use those. So please contact Mark and volunteer to be one of our spin editors. And on the AV today is Jonathan Bassaro. As you know, we'll be meeting via Zoom. Our plan is to return to the hybrid option of having in-person as well as Zoom starting March the 1st. Now, if things get worse, if we go from orange to red instead of orange to yellow, like it appears we're doing, we'll have to back off that. But the plan as of now is to add in-person meetings back March the 1st. We will continue to have the Zoom option available. I don't know that we'll ever be ending the Zoom option because it's popular and there's some folks that just can't make it downtown or need to be much more careful. And we want to always include that option so we can include you and you can stay active in Rotary. If you want to use the Zoom room for a committee meeting, please contact Jane and make sure that you select a time so we don't have more than one person using it at the same time. Go Baby Go, you should have all received a communication on that project. Go Baby Go is a go. And we are currently in the process of raising funds. We're working with the committee that's in charge. We're reaching out to other area Rotary clubs, and we're finding some clubs that are interested that hopefully will join in the effort to make this a multi-club project. We've applied for some grants, and we're going to use some of our own Rotary funds to really kick this off. We've got some members that have pledged money. And if you are interested in pledging money towards Go Baby Go, a very worthy project, which is not just a one-time thing, it is going to carry forward. Use our normal PayPal link that you'll find in the spin and contribute. Make sure that you mark in the space where you can comment that these funds are for Go Baby Go. Just like if you want to make a contribution for fines or for the Rotary Is moment. Again, mark that money for Rotary Is. We need to make sure that we make the job easy on Mark Westerhausen so he knows where to put the funds. Does anyone else have any other updates or announcements for the club? Yes, Lynn.
Well, I'm going to take this opportunity to share an idea. The executive committee met this morning, and we talked about having a monthly social activity since we all can't get together in person yet. So I volunteered to spearhead that. And one of the first ideas that I had, just because I thought it was interesting, and I've seen Anna Garten do it, is to have how to make the best cocktail ever. And we can get somebody from the community. I've got a couple people in mind who could teach us. We should have actually done this last fall. Oh, well, but we're still going to be a little bit on the quarantine side. So I thought it's better late than never. So I will be sending out a doodle poll. Which night would be best? We're probably talking about a Monday night. It seems to be Monday nights, are less busy, but we'll get an idea from the club. And then if we want to share other things that we've done during quarantine, like bread baking or your best movies, or Tim Gibson's already suggested he would give us a tour of Frank Lloyd Wright houses and his experiences. So if there's some kind of specialty that you'd like to lead your fellow Rotarians through, how to write a rap tune, write poetry, whatever. But anyway, I thought maybe we'd start with cocktails because we all seem to, like that stuff. And maybe we can get a recipe and everybody bring their ingredients and we have a round table and we do cheers and prosts and all kinds of things. So stay tuned and watch for a doodle poll coming to your email box soon.
And this is something we want to do every month. Actually, the idea came from Dave Kaverman, who said that his club in South Carolina instituted a travel log where one member each month would sign up to say, I'll lead next month's meeting and I want to share photos from when my wife and I went to Italy. This recent trip that was probably before the pandemic because nobody goes to Italy anymore, but just to present something that they did. And so we're going to have ours be not just focused on travel, but each month someone wants to sign up to be the leader for that month. And in this case, it might be cocktails, or it might be, like she said, your favorite movie, or just whatever topic. So if we have this going every month as something, a reason to join your Rotary friends online some evening, might be fun. So let's give it a try. And if you've got something you'd like to do, let Lynn and myself know, and we'll make sure that you get on the schedule. Anyone else have anything to share? If not, then I will ask Irene to please introduce our speaker.
I am so happy to welcome Randy Harder to our Rotary Club today. Randy is an historian and author of 3 books on Fort Wayne history: Postcard History Series Fort Wayne, Legendary Locals of Fort Wayne, which some of our own Rotarians are in, and Fort Wayne Through Time, which will be presented shortly. In all, these books represent a photo archive of Fort Wayne's history. As a former and now retired sales and marketing executive, Randy is presently devoting his time to his passion of more than 45 years, researching and lecturing about Fort Wayne history. He is currently heading up a team that is chronicling for publication the last 150 years of Fort Wayne's architects and architecture. He's also the founder of the Fort Wayne Roundtable, which I hope he'll tell us more about. For a little more than 3 years, he and his daughter, Sarah Arnold, ran foodie tours of downtown Fort Wayne, which included historical and architectural commentary. Randy also lent his talents to conveying the excitement of our Fort Wayne rivers as a docent on Sweet Breeze, Fort Wayne's historic canal boat replica, which I hope you've all been on. For his efforts, Friends of the Rivers made him a Sweet Breeze captain And since he missed the ceremony at which it was awarded, I'm presenting this to you now, Randy, virtually, and I'll mail it to you. And now for the program, let's welcome Randy to present Fort Wayne Through Time, a brief look at our history, past versus present. Randy?
Thanks, Irene.
Come on.
Okay, here we are. Thanks, Irene. I see some of my other pals on here, Dave Van Gilder, who has billed me accessibly over the years, and Lisa Esquivel, a good pal, John Hoffman, who was a fellow mentor for SCORE with me. So it's good to see some familiar faces. This Fort Wayne Through Time was a little project I was offered 2-3 years ago. And I was lucky enough to find a young photographer here in town to assist me with the project and do the photography, since if I don't have my cell phone, I can't take a picture. But at any rate, we had access to the News Sentinel, the Journal Gazette's archives, also to Arch and the Allen County Public Library, and a number of private collections of friends of mine who are interested in history. And so we went through them and chose close to 200 images that we thought we'd like to think about replicating with the view today. And we actually replicated around 120 of them in the end, and about 90 of them we put in the book. So I'm just gonna shoot through a dozen or so of these pictures and talk about them each a little bit. And hopefully somebody like Jeffrey Kroll won't send me an email later saying I said something wrong about the Allen County Public Library. This is my friend, that became my friend, Dan Baker, who did the photography. And we were lucky enough to get access to the roofs of a lot of buildings in downtown Fort Wayne, including the Baker Street Station, the St. Joe Hospital helipad, Anthony Wayne Bank Building. We're on Three Rivers Apartments here, Lincoln Tower. We're on One Summit Square. I've got him in the back of a pickup truck in this case, sitting in front of the Hilton Hotel. But in every case, we are replicating an image that had been taken from this location previously. Because we're working off of computers today, I didn't use many of the aerials, as I call them, because the detail kind of falls into the background. But I know a lot of you will recognize this block, of course. We've got here the Grand Leader / Stillman's department store. It was designed by A.M. Strauss in the Art Deco style. It was clad in white terracotta and was a beautiful building. The Grand Leader department store chain was owned by John Stillman, and at some point he decided he wanted his own name on the stores instead of Grand Leader, so he changed it to Stillman's, and I'm sure a lot of us shopped there over the years. Down here on this corner, can everybody see my mouse arrow? Okay, down on this corner is the old W&D's department store. It was there from 1919 to 1959. That was the department store until they built a new one where the Citizen Square is now. Here's the old People's Trust Bank. Down here is what was called the utility building, which NIPSCO was in. And of course, all of this block was leveled and replaced by One Summit Square, which we now call Indiana Michigan Power Center. And we'll just scoot right along here, or we'll try. I kind of like this picture here. It's kind of a nice misty look down Berry Street. Our photographer standing in the just past the intersection of Harrison. And you can see on the right here is the old Baltes Hotel, which was a 60-room male-only hotel. It was built in 1908. And where it sat is now the parking lot next to Star Bank and where their drive-through is at. Next to it's the old First National Bank, which as a result of the Depression became Fort Wayne National Bank. It was built in 1920 and is still standing there, of course. The next building down is Sears and Roebuck. They occupied this building here until 1953 when they built their new store, and it opened at the corner of Rudisill and Clinton Street. And this building has recently been redone in the past few years and is the home of the software company Aptera. Over here on the left corner, of course, is the old Anthony Wayne Hotel, 263 rooms, a very opulent hotel on the inside. And it was leveled with explosions in January of 1974 to make a parking lot for the new Fort Wayne National Bank. These images here that I've bracketed in purple, the purple takes up the same space in both cases. Some people don't realize, but this is actually the courthouse we have now is the fourth courthouse that has set on what was called the public square. The first courthouse was down here in this corner. It was a two-story log building, and it was built in the 1832 and was taken down in 1841. Then the next courthouse was a real plain two-story brick courthouse, which sat right in the middle of the square and had a little cupola on top. This courthouse here was built in 1862 with the promise that it would last 100 years, which of course it didn't. But you can't tell from this view, but if you look down on this courthouse, it's actually shaped like a cross. And on either end of this courthouse was a little niche, and on one side was a statue of George Washington, and on the other side of the building was a statue of Little Turtle. And here on the corner was a little drinking fountain with a gazebo over it and a beautiful copper eagle on top. One of the great Fort Wayne artifact mysteries is what became of the two statues. Nobody seems to know. And in digging through newspapers of the era, no mention is ever made of what became of the statues. It's hard to imagine they just got tossed away. So if one of you has it in your backyard, please let me know if you would. Also, this gazebo was moved to Sweeney Park in 1897. And we know it was still there in 1908 because we have pictures of it there in 1908. But when it disappeared, we don't know. And neither does anyone know what became of the big copper eagle. If one of you has it in your man cave, please drop me a line. I'm sure the History Center would like to know about it. But our gorgeous courthouse here was begun in 1897 when they tore down the old 1862 courthouse. It was completed in 1902 at the then huge sum of, including furnishings, of $800,000. A lot of people were against spending that much money, especially back at the turn of the century. But it has certainly stood the test of time with a lot of TLC over the years. The architectural style is Beaux Arts, and it was designed by Tolan. It was the only building he designed in Fort Wayne, Brentwood Tolan. But he lived here for many years and designed other courthouses all over the Midwest. And as you can see here, our old courthouse was 160 feet tall, and this one's 225 feet tall. So anyway, kind of quite a history behind the courthouses on the public square. Only two people have laid in state in our courthouse. The first one was Major General Henry W. Lawton, who was who was killed in the Philippines. He was a Medal of Honor winner, and he laid in state there in 1900. And then the next person and the other person to lay in state there was World War I flying ace Lieutenant Bear, who was killed in December of 1930, and he laid in state there in 1931. Kind of an interesting little aside, but Paul Bear had a number of different jobs in aviation after World War I. His last was helping develop a flying routes for China. And the way that he died was he was flying a float plane off of the Yangtze River in China, and one of his pontoons clipped the top of a Chinese junk, and he flipped over and drowned. Kind of a bizarre story. For anyone who's watching this, who's under the age of 40 years old, you'd be forgiven if you thought the courthouse green was always there, because it's absolutely perfect the way that it sets off the east side of the courthouse. It certainly appears as though it belonged. And however, until the mid 1990s, that block was full of buildings. The picture that I show here is from 1925. Most of us will remember that in later years, this block, the major company on the block was First Federal Savings and Loan, where the Farmers Trust Company is here on the corner, was their parking lot. But in this image here at the end of the block is the Pixley Long building, which faced where the photographers at. In the middle of the block here was the German American Bank. Prior to World War I, it was people thought that over 50% of the population in Fort Wayne were either German immigrants or descendants of German immigrants. That made the German American Bank, in spite of the fact there were a number of other banks in Fort Wayne, the biggest, most successful bank in Fort Wayne. And they held a very prestigious spot here facing the east side of the courthouse. It was started by David Foster, who also started Lincoln National Life Insurance Company. And along comes World War I, and all of a sudden, anything that has the word German in it is not very popular. So David Foster changed the name of the bank from the German American Bank to the Lincoln National Bank. So you'd have two Lincolns in the family. And then later on, 4 years after this image was taken, they took down the Pixley Long building, and the Lincoln National Bank Tower was put in its place. Lincoln Tower, when it was completed in the fall of 1930, was the tallest building in Indiana. And it's a title that it held for 32 years until 1962, when the city county building was built in downtown Indianapolis, which supplanted that building. I don't know if any of us here are old enough to remember, but this little building right here was where you went downstairs to the restrooms underneath the sidewalk, which probably wouldn't happen again today. In 1924, the News Sentinel hired an aerial photographer from the East Coast to come to Fort Wayne and shoot a series of pictures of downtown. This is one of my favorites. We're looking at, sorry about that. We're looking here at the Wells Street Bridge, which of course is still standing. It was built in 1884. Here's the Harrison Street Bridge, which, since this image was taken in 1924, has been replaced with a new Harrison Street Bridge. When this bridge was first built in 1915, it was called the Lincoln Highway Bridge, because at the time the Lincoln Highway came through Fort Wayne in 1913, it crossed the St. Mary's River on the old Wells Street Bridge, which wasn't, as you know, a very wide bridge, plus the fact that it had a set of trolley tracks across the bridge. So it was felt a new bridge was needed. And when they completed this bridge, as you may know, the Lincoln Highway started in Times Square in New York City, and it crossed the United States and ended in Lincoln Park in San Francisco. So at any rate, when they completed this bridge, they put a plaque on the end of the bridge that said, in essence, from this bridge to New York City is 724 miles, and to San Francisco is 2,660 miles. And when they built the new bridge some years back, they took the plaque off the old bridge and they put it on the new bridge. So if you're ever downtown and you're doing the circle here in Headwaters Park, take a second to stop and see kind of a really neat piece of Fort Wayne history, Lincoln Highway history, and just plain Americana. This is the only aerial image that has ever been taken of the old League Park, which was the big baseball stadium and what is now Headwaters Park. It was built in 1883, and to hold 1,500 people. When this picture was taken in 1924, it had been expanded a number of times and held 5,000 people. 6 years after this picture was taken, an arsonist set it on fire, and the stadium was burned down. And given the fact that we had just entered the Depression, it was not rebuilt. And in fact, during the Depression, this whole area of the Thumb became Fort Wayne's Hooverville, and was full of tents and tar paper shacks through the Depression. For those of you who have eaten at the gas house, and I'm sure everybody here can easily raise their hand on that one, this is the big gas holding tank that sat in the parking lot behind today's current gas house. And of course, the gas house was so named because this whole block here and the block across the street backing against the nickel plate railroad tracks was all part of the gas company, where they manufactured coal gas. At the time, natural gas was not being piped into Fort Wayne. And so a lot of municipalities had a coal gas plant. It was privately owned, but, and as an oversimplification, they heated up coal in an enclosed vessel. They captured the gas fumes that came off of the coal. They put it in these large gas holders. This gas holder was like a Boy Scout camping cup, where it collapses when it's empty, and as it fills with gas, the sides rose up. So at any rate, they captured the gas, put it in the gas holder, and then piped it out to people's homes in Fort Wayne, primarily for cooking and lighting, back when a lot of homes had gas lights in them. Heating was mostly still done with coal. Here's another shot of the Thumb. Some of you, I'm sure, are going to remember the flood of 1982. I remember going down to the city garage and helping fill sandbags. But the flood of 82 was the impetus to finally do something about the Thumb, which flooded every so often. The last major flood before the flood of 82 was in 1913. But even during that period between 1913 and 1982, there was still smaller floods when there was heavy rains and heavy ice melts. So the city, along with federal money and state money, because it was considered a flood mitigation project, was able to purchase all of these properties on the Thumb. Some of you may remember there was a A&W root beer stand right here. This was Spot Home Center. This was Poinsett Chrysler Plymouth. The National Guard Armory sat here. A number of industrial and warehouses were in this area here. Some of you may remember Seat Cover Charlie in his commercials, where he said he'd give them away, but his wife won't let him. And of course, Club Soda was there, and the building was there, and the gas house was there. But at any rate, for a little over 16 million, actually 16.9 million, so about $17 million, this whole property was purchased, leveled, and the beautiful Headwaters Park, designed by local architect Eric Kuhn, was put in its place. And I have to say that my personal feelings are is it's some of the best money that was ever spent in downtown Fort Wayne. Real bonus that it's there. Just for fun, I'm tossing in this picture here. Keeping in mind, this picture is 88 years old, and I'm wondering whether these enamel top tables and bar stools are just about paid for, probably. Hard to imagine. What's even harder to imagine is this wonderful refrigerator that was made by McCray Refrigeration in Kendallville is still sitting there today. I'm sure it's been worked on many times over the years, but these people now know how to recycle and reuse. Down here, facing us here is Jimmy Toderin, who some of you may know and know that he, along with Kathy Choka, are the owners of the Coney Island hot dog stand, which has been in business since 1914. This is a Bar Street market, then and now. When the Bar Street market was originally called the Hannah Place Market because Sam Hannah gave this property to the city of Fort Wayne to use for a outdoor market. And until 1910, from 1837, it was nothing more than a row of 2 rows of tables for a block and a half that farmers would come to on and display their wares. In 1910, William Mahurin, the architects who designed the city building back here, which is now the History Museum, they also designed the Electron building on Berry, the Hannah Mansion, dozens of houses and other buildings in Fort Wayne. But at any rate, William Mahurin in 1910 designed this Bar Street Market, which had 112 stalls. It was open 6 days a week, and it was the city's fresh food market. Along comes the supermarkets, and in 1957, they decided that the Bar Street Market was no longer necessary. So in 57, they took down this section here between the back of the city building and Wayne Street. And then in 1958, this section here that went from Wayne Street up to Washington was taken down. This is a building that I'm sure is very near and dear to Irene Walters' home. This, of course, is the home of Barrett McNagny now. But when this picture here was taken in 1907, it was in the middle of the GAR encampment in Fort Wayne. 15,000 people descended on Fort Wayne, and the first floor of the Electron building was the temporary offices of the encampment and also on the parade route. So they built a big temporary arch over Berry Street and had quite a to-do for a week or so. The Electron building has had, which was, with the major investor in the building was Ranald T. McDonald, not Ronald, Ranald with an A, but Ranald T. McDonald had founded the Jenny Electric Company. And because of his interest and involvement in electricity, he named the building Electron with a K instead of a C. The building's had quite a storied past. It's a neoclassical revival style. And while our courthouse was that we have now was being erected between 1898 and 1902, this acted as the Allen County courthouse. While our old Carnegie Library, which we all recall probably sat at the corner of Wayne and Webster, was being built. This acted as the Allen County Public Library, which was from 1901 to 1903. And then this was the home office to the Lincoln National Life Insurance Company from 1912 to 1923. In 1923, their new offices were completed on Harrison across from the federal courthouse, and they moved out of this building. They continued to own it for a number of years, and for quite a number of years, it was called the Standard Building. So if you ever see addresses that somebody's office was in the Standard Building, it was in the Electron Building here. This beautiful Art Moderne streamline Greyhound bus station is probably one of the city's biggest architectural fails, I would say, as far as preservation. The building was built in 1938. It was one of dozens of Greyhound bus stations built across the United States that were all done in this style, designed with what they called Greyhound blue steel enamel panels. They all incorporated glass blocks and were trimmed in white neon. The building sat empty for a number of years and was boarded up, and then unfortunately was razed in 1992. I can't say as what we've replaced it with is bad, but it would certainly be nice if the building was still there today. This building here was the English Terrace Restaurant. And of course, the Indiana Hotel and the Embassy Theater are down here in the next block. The Columbia Street is used to be 5 blocks long. We have 1 block of it left. The 5th block was underneath under what is today Three Rivers Apartments. So it ran all the way to the confluence of the Three Rivers. In 1975, we had a number of arson fires in Fort Wayne. The original Dean Museum in Franke Park was burned down. Part of the Follinger Theater in Franke Park was burned down. And then during the night, I believe it was in February of 1975, the old Rosemarie Hotel, which had sat here at this location since the 1800s. It had had a number of names over the years. It was originally the Wayne Hotel. It was the Jones Hotel. Eventually became the Rosemarie. But the Rosemarie Hotel was set on fire. It had 95 rooms in it, and while it was well past its prime architecturally, it was still a very beautiful building inside and out. While the firemen were fighting this fire over here, the same arsonist, it is assumed, set this building on fire. This was the Bash Block, which housed old Fort Draperies and Protective Electric. And so they fought the fire throughout the night. And unfortunately, both buildings were lost. At one point, they thought they could save the brick facades and build in behind them, but it was determined that it was too unsafe to do that. So recently, of course, with the renovation of the Columbia Street, the apartment complex was built in the slot that was the Rosemarie, and this where the Bash building was is now a parking lot, and which allows us to show off the beautiful bison that was painted on the side of the wall. Incidentally, these 2 limestone obelisks that you see here, and then you see again here, those came off of the front of the old Scottish Rite Cathedral. They're sitting right there. The Scottish Rite Cathedral was taken down in the mid-60s, but it was kind of neat that somebody, and I don't know who, saved the obelisks and had them moved to the end of Columbia Street. The other thing that's in this picture here, this upside down capitol here is one of the capitals from atop of the entrance to the old Allen County Public Library, our Carnegie Library. This is kind of a neat shot from 1966, taken from the top of Lincoln Tower. The thing that I really like about the picture is the fact that you can see the new Allen County Public Library is being built here. This is where the old beautiful Carnegie Library sat, which had Fort Wayne had way outgrown. At that point, a number of other buildings in the area along Washington and Webster were being used for the library as well. But at any rate, we see here the new library is being built. Here in the picture is also still standing the old YWCA, which wasn't taken down at that time, but was taken down later during further expansions. Let's see here. Here's the old Keenan Hotel and the old St. John's Church, both of which the Graham Wayne Center is sitting atop of now. This building here is the old Allen Hotel, which was also called the Portland Apartments. It came down as part of the 2007 expansion of the library, further expansion, and is now a parking lot, which is used a lot by patrons and library employees. Sitting over here at the back is the old Jefferson School, which is, thank God, it's been replaced by a McDonald's. We really needed another McDonald's. And then we can see over here is the Harrison, and of course, where you folks normally meet at the Tin Cap Stadium. It's kind of an interesting shot. Boy, I tell you, talk about how a block changes. This picture was taken from the top of the courthouse dome 113 years ago. And you'll see here we have, this is the old Temple Theater, which was the Masonic Temple. It burnt down in 1923. We've got the old, oops, it's about time. My daughter just gave me a note and says my 20 minutes are up. So I'll just finish up real quick here. This is the old federal building. This was the original federal courthouse in Fort Wayne, and also the main post office, which was replaced by the post office on Harrison Street. And I'm gonna flip right along here. This is my last slide, and it's probably the most important slide. I like this picture. It was lent to me by the News Sentinel. Of the Bubble Up trucks out front. Bubble Up was a lemon lime soda like Sprite or 7-Up, and it was manufactured in this building here. This building now, of course, is the Hall Community Arts building, and it's the home to the Cinema Center, and I believe the Dance Collective is upstairs. But when Anthony Wayne arrived in Fort Wayne on September 17th of 1794, with his 2,600 troops, it was this location that he chose to build the fort. His troops spent the next 5 weeks leveling the woods from this location all the way down to the rivers, so that if somebody was coming up the St. Mary's or up the St. Joe or up the Maumee, I've got my ups and backs reversed on some of that, but nonetheless, if anybody was coming up the rivers from this location, they would have been able to look down the hill and see them. It took them 5 weeks to complete the fort. It was completed and on October 22nd of 1794, Wayne had his second in command, Colonel Hamtramck, call together all the troops to the parade ground. He read a proclamation that in essence said that forevermore, this will be known as Fort Wayne. And so it was on that day of October 22nd, 1794, that we got our name. Anthony Wayne saddled up along with some of his troops 2 days later and rode off, never to return. So he was in Fort Wayne for about 5 weeks. And 2 years after he left, he died in Fort Presque Isle, which is now Erie, Pennsylvania. And I'm going to end it right there. I could prattle on all day. Thank you.
Randy, thank you so much. Do we have any questions for Randy? If you have a question, please.
Yeah, I have a question.
Thank you.
This is Barb. I was just wondering, outside of the Greyhound station, because I did live in town when it was there, and it is gorgeous. What other Art Deco site do you think is gorgeous besides the Lincoln Tower? Because that was such a very lovely building time.
Well,
Other examples.
That we lost. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. That we lost, of course, the Stillman's building downtown was beautiful. I mean, it was, clad in white terracotta, and when the light hit it, it was just gorgeous. But, during the Art Deco period, a number of buildings were built in Fort Wayne, and very few of them still exist. The Troy Laundry building on Calhoun, which is now a health center, is another good example. And that also is clad in terracotta, as is the old Rialto Theater. Those are about, those are a few of the only ones that still are.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you, Barb, for helping me put together some information before our talk today. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Randy, thank you so much. We appreciate this look back at town.
Thank you.
Our program next week is Julie Sanchez with the NIC, the Northeast Indiana Innovation Center, and she'll be presenting NIC Breakthrough Program. If you could bring up our door, our opportunities door. Again, the theme for Rotary this year is Rotary Open Opportunities, and each week I select a member to open one of our doors and receive a prize. And Irene, have I selected you?
Nope, you have not.
Well, then Irene, this is your opportunity to open a door and see what you find.
I select the red door.
The red door. Well, you are lucky because this week the red door contains a gift card to Casa's Restaurant, and I will get this out in the mail to you.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you for bringing us some very interesting speakers. Also, I close the meeting with a quote, one of the top 100 movie lines as selected by the American Film Institute. I try to find a way to tie it into the presentation. And as we were watching the presentation and I looked at the Lincoln Tower and heard that it was the tallest tower building in Indiana for a number of years, it brought to mind this movie line from the 1933 film King Kong, which of course was a very tall building there in New York. And the line is, "Oh no, it wasn't the airplanes, it was beauty that killed the beast." As Rotarians, we look to the four-way test to guide our thoughts, words, and actions. So please join me in reciting the test as we prepare to adjourn for the week ahead. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And my friends, until next week, Rotary.
Bye-bye, everybody.